So I got this system running at home where I have my webcams going through an artificial intelligence stack and detects if there's anything interesting going on in the cameras. And I thought I'd give you guys a quick rundown of how I got this set up using entirely free software. So it all starts out with obviously some web cameras that are planted around the house, and we'll be looking at the one that's specifically pointed in front of the garage. So the first piece of software that I use is called Motion, and you can run it either as a standalone program or you can run it as a Docker container in order to minimize the installation. And basically it uses configuration files, and in those configuration files you define what are the sources, your cameras, and how do you want to process the detections. So I don't want to go into too much detail in explaining how motion works. The long story short is that each time there is motion, it creates a file, and that file is either or and both a picture and a video file. You can tell it what you want it to do once it's done detection and save the file. And in my specific case, I told it to navigate towards a web browse address, and in that address, it specifies the file that it detected and where it came from. So here you can see the motion software that captured me, yours truly, coming back from the edge of the street here with a recycling bin. So this is the detection that we are going to submit to the system to see if there's anything interesting in it. So here you can see my configuration file for the program, and in which I have specified that once it has finished writing a file, a picture, when the picture save is done, I want it to send a signal to a web browser, a web server at this address, and it sends along the file name and the device that it had the detection from. Pretty straightforward. The second piece of software that I used for my integration is called Node-RED. It is used to do mostly home automation, but you can do all kinds of tasks with it. It simplifies a lot of the programming and the coding that would be necessary to do ordinary tasks. And it's very, very handy because it is a very well supported community effort piece of software, and it has all kinds of interesting plugins to do all kinds of tasks. Now, I would like to bring to your attention one particular one, and it's the node that is in blue here, and it says pass it through the AI stack. That is another piece of software that I will be explaining in a moment. But what you need to remember is that I've set up at the beginning, or on the top left here, I have set up a node that says receive image detection. So that is a URL that I've set up that receives at this address, at the URL detect, the image detection. So what we were mentioning before, that we would send a signal, here is where it's received. And if you follow the flow quickly, it's going to generate the real file name, because obviously the one that is sent and the one that the software knows might be a bit different. It's going to get the file data, it will pass it through the AI stack, and then it will filter the identical events, detect if there is a video recorded with the same file name, find the video file, and for each file that it finds, generate a message which it will send to email and notify my phone with. What it will also do is copy the detected data and create an annotated file to later attach to that email. So in other words, I'm going to get a picture which will show me what it detected in the email. And on top of that, there's a third task that it does below here. If it is between 8 o'clock in the morning and at night, which is a definition that is defined based on solar observations, long story short, if I'm up, it will prepare a sentence built from the AI detection, translate that message also to French, and then take both messages, send it through my media devices, and tell me what it saw. So the last piece of software that I have to mention is called DeepStack. It's a AI server, and it basically runs as a web service, and it's very easy to run either as a standalone, again, or as a Docker container, in which you just pass an argument to say what you would like to detect. And it can do quite a bit of things, including detecting objects, and quite a slew of them. It can also do scene recognition and facial recognition. So I don't want to get too deep into that one either, but suffice it to know that it's a very easy piece of software to use, and if you send a picture through it, it can return what it has detected in it. So that's the third piece and third ingredient here that you need to get this done. If you go through the documentation, it explains quite quickly how it can be used, and there are a lot of setups that can use it natively. And as I demonstrated earlier on, my little piece of software here already has an object that can use natively the deep stack, and you just pass it a picture and it returns what it's detected through it. So it can be very simple to use. So let's see this in operation now. Let's switch back to the window where I have URL call, and I will quickly switch back immediately after I press enter here to my Node-RED flow so you see it in operation. And this is what it looks like.
The camera at the garage thought it saw a person with a certainty of 73%.
La caméra du garage pensait avoir vu une personne avec une certitude de 73%.
And that's pretty much it, folks. If you have any questions, you know how to reach me.